If you've been following my channel, you know that I've been a big fan of the Resident Evil 4 remake. I beat it on my Xbox and I started playing through it again. It's one of those games that I wasn't expecting it to improve upon the original the way that it did. And with the Halloween season approaching, I think it's fitting that Capcom has now released the Separate Ways DLC. And in this video, I'm going to review that DLC and let you know if it's worth spending the $10 on it or if it's worth skipping entirely. Let's take a look. Perfect. So, the original Separate Ways came with the PS2 version of Resident Evil 4 and a bunch of the new updated versions like the Wii version of Resident Evil 4, and that basically focused on Ada's storyline as it ran concurrently with Leon's storyline, and basically the different routes and things that she was doing while Leon was going through the campaign. And this remake version, it's not much different format at all. However, it might be because Capcom went to great lengths to remix and remake certain elements of Resident Evil 4 for the remake that makes this feel fresher, but I felt like this felt a lot more expanded upon. And what I mean is the story elements didn't just feel better and more whole, I guess is the best way to put it in terms of some of the character development, but the actual areas and places you went to felt a lot more fresh than I recall it feeling when I played through Separate Ways back on the PS2 and Wii versions. So I really liked the way that was formatted, and I also like the way that the action itself has also been refreshed a bit to separate Ada from Leon. The biggest thing I'm getting at is the grappling hook function. So you could use it to traverse through some of the world. It doesn't allow you to grapple hook to everything, only predefined areas, which that's fine. But it's when it comes down to the combat that this feels a lot fresher than how Leon's feels. And what I mean is, when you stun an enemy, for example, you can use your grappling hook to pull yourself towards them and hit them. This is also a tool incorporated in some of the boss fights, and I thought it was awesome the way it worked. I also like that as you go through the game, you can get or purchase things called charms, which are essentially like perks for Ada's character, and some of them increase the drop amount of items or ammo, and you can also get certain charms that are related to Ada's grappling hook, one of them allowing you to do something awesome like pull a shield off of an enemy and then basically take them on just as normal. I thought that those little additions really made the combat for Ada a lot more unique. Now, with these additions and with the building upon of the story to this game, I think these things are excellent. But the main focus of the DLC really does feel a lot more action-oriented, and it feels a lot more tailored to Ada as a character in the Resident Evil universe, which is excellent. What I didn't like, and I'm not going to spoil this too much, but in Chapter 4, they kind of broke up the pacing a bit, and it felt a little wonky. In other words, it just didn't seem to match the flow of the rest of the DLC, which is a little disappointing because there's only 7 chapters overall. However, Chapter 5 pretty much makes up for it and puts you right back in the swing of things, and in my opinion is a standout chapter in the entirety of this DLC. I thought it was a fantastic chapter, and I'm not going to go too deep into it and spoil it, but there's some excellent combat, set pieces, and of course an incredible boss fight as far as I was concerned. Probably one of the better ones in the Resident Evil series. And so this DLC, apart from Chapter 4's pacing issues, I think is fantastic. I think you have a solid storyline, you have a solid remixing of the game itself that you didn't get with the original Separate Ways, or at least I didn't feel like was offered with the original Separate Ways, and I thought Capcom did an incredible job of making Ada's combat feel unique to her a lot better than they did in the previous Separate Ways edition on the Wii and PS2 versions of this game. The only thing that might throw some people off is the playtime isn't tremendously long, but that's kind of expected with DLC. It took me about 5 hours or so in total to beat it, which is probably a little on the longer end than most people. But as it stands, I think this is well worth the cost of admission, which is only like $10. So I definitely recommend picking this up if you're a huge fan of Resident Evil 4 Remake like I am. And for those of you who've played it or are going to get it or are currently playing it, don't hesitate to put your comments and your thoughts below. Thank you.